Okay, hello guys. Very good morning to all of you. We are today starting a new series of discussions on central nervous system pharmacology. So CNS pharmacology is our next topic if we are starting in the pharmacology, and we would like to understand and try to interrelate. Clear? See guys, if we talk about the central nervous system, basically it should be more about the transmission system. Okay, when you are discussing about the CNS, the central nervous system, it's more about a transmission system. You always think about synaptic transmission, you think about electrical synapses, you think about chemical synapses, you think about gating, you think about indirect gating. Okay, then you think about neurotransmitters. Okay, then starting about dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, glutamate, isn't it? Histamine, opioids, endocannabinoids. Those are called CBs. Where now see the basic principle. If you have studied in the neurology, in the neurosciences, or in the neurophysiology, if you want to rapidly stimulate two cells, for example, I have two connections like this and I want to stimulate these two connections rapidly. The most important mechanism for doing a rapid cell communication is electrical synapse. If you have an electrical synapse, you will be having a rapid cell communication. But pharmacologically, your drugs will be having a very less impact on this thing. Are we able to understand? Drugs will have a very less impact on this. Comparing this with a chemical synapse, which is more of a slower mechanism, which is more of a those complex signaling processes happening. They are also happening. They are also trying to conduct. They are also trying to communicate. But the mechanism is of a chemical nature, not of a electrical nature. That is, there will be a release of neurotransmitter like this. If I call this right one, this is right one, I call it as presynaptic terminal, and this I call as postsynaptic terminal. Then at this point of junction, at this synapse, the interaction in case of a chemical synapse is happening because of a release of a neurotransmitter, from this place and going to the receptors. And this process is actually requiring calcium. Once the calcium will enter through the voltage dependent calcium channels. And when this voltage dependent calcium channels open, you get an action potential that will finally cause a depolarization of the terminal. And you said in the previous videos of the nerve muscle physiology that there is a place called the synaptic cleft. Synaptic cleft, isn't it? So synaptic cleft, what is a synaptic cleft? A synaptic cleft is defined as a space. Please listen to the definition. Synaptic, very nice, beautiful, very nice, you have answered. It's a space between presynaptic axon terminal and postsynaptic membrane. Presynaptic axon terminal, this is presynaptic axon terminal, and postsynaptic membrane, this should be the postsynaptic membrane on which you want to do the action of the neurotransmitter, the receptor I can call. That means this postsynaptic activity will depend on the receptors, like we said in the ANS. This will depend on the receptors. Clear? Clear, guys? Now, this process of chemical synapse can have gating. There are two words we have. I think you have read that in the physiology. One is called ligand gated receptors. Ligand gated receptors, which is an example of direct gating. Direct gating, isn't it? Direct gating. And then Indirect gating. Indirect gating. Indirect gating, you have non-channel linked receptor. Non-channel linked receptor. So what is this ligand gated receptor? Ligand gated receptor means that type of a receptor in which a neurotransmitter will bind. That neurotransmitter will bind to it. That neurotransmitter can open an ion channel or close that ion channel. What did I say? For example, this is a receptor. I had some ion channels here and it has some gates. It has some gates. So if I talk about, if I keep it closed, once you attach a neurotransmitter, here, it will open the gate or it can close the gate. That will depend on the nature of that channel. So on the receptors, you are having these things. And if, for example, you are opening the channel, your extracellular ion, I won't speak sodium or potassium. I would here generally say extracellular ions will come inside. They will come inside. These are extracellular ions. This is intracellular space. So once you open a gate, what do you think? If you have more of a water outside and you have a small gate like a dam, okay, this is a dam and here you have water, okay, and this is just a one gate, okay, this is closed. What if I open this gate? Don't you think the whatever is present outside should come with a force inside? That is based on the potential energy and kinetic energy. But here I am talking about that electrical potential difference. Every time we talk about potential differences. So that means in the ligand gated receptors, you are having activation and then the final change is giving you a post membrane synaptic potential. This gives us a change in the post synaptic membrane potential. Which neurotransmitters do this thing? Please listen to the question. Which neurotransmitters do this thing of direct gating? Please write the examples. So direct gating is done by neurotransmitters like number 1, glutamate. Number 2, acetylcholine. Number 3, GABA. GABA means gamma aminobutyric acid. Number 4 is glycine. We always talk them together. GABA glycine. Okay, remember like that. And last one is serotonin. Clear? These are those neurotransmitters which are involved in the ligand gated receptors. They are following the direct gating mechanism whereby they are changing there's a rapid change in the postsynaptic membrane potential because of the activation of those receptors, those gated channels. While if I talk about the indirect gating, indirect gating means I told you the number 1, I told you non-channel linked receptors. What happens that non-channel linked, that means they are not using the channels. Yes, they are not using the channels. Then what they are doing, sir, what they are doing is, this is a membrane, cell membrane. Once a neurotransmitter comes on this receptor, what happens? This is inside connected by a switch. It's a switch outside. Inside you have an intracellular secondary messenger. You have this switch which will finally activate the intracellular secondary messenger pathway. So you have G proteins inside. This is called secondary messenger. So this is not called secondary messenger. What functions it will be doing, which ion it will be sending, that will be called a secondary messenger. Okay. So GTP binding is an example. GTP, what is GTP? Guanosine triphosphate. So once a receptor on the receptor, a neurotransmitter comes, it activates this GTP system, and then you have a response. This GTP can have, this transaction process which is happening inside can lead to some, some effects. Okay. So which things are your signaling pathways? Which things inside the cell behave as signaling pathways? So signaling pathways inside the cell, let us name them signaling pathways. What are the ways that they can signal inside? Okay, this is the concept. Okay, guys, is it clear? Guys, is it clear? Okay, now the number one is CAMP, the famous CAMP. CAMP is cyclic adenosine monophosphate. Clear? That you know already. Number two is, let me write from, I should not directly say DAG and IP3. I should first write the biochemistry. So in the biochemistry, from the compound, that is polyphosphoinositide, that was the compound which was giving us some products. So these phosphoinoside products, what are the phosphoinoside products? DAG, IP3. What is DAG? Diacylglycerol. Diacylglycerol. IP3 means inositol triphosphate. Inositol triphosphate. Next we can write calcium conductance. That is a signaling pathway. Next, potassium conductance. So if you have more potassium conductance, what will happen? Hyperpolarization will happen. Hyperpolarization. Because losing more positive charges will give you hyperpolarization. Number 5, sodium conductance, which is a cation conductance. So you will have depolarization. Number 6, chloride conductance. Chloride conductance gives you hyperpolarization. Is it clear, friends? Very nice. Okay. What will this calcium conductance do if you have more amount of calcium? Let us add point here. It's important for our smooth muscle contraction. The more intracellular calcium, you will be actually leading that troponin system. Okay, actin myosin interactions. And you can also increase secretions if it's a secretory tissue, secretions. Or you can also do another transmitter release, calcium induced transmitter release. Are we able to understand? This is the concept. By the way, in the previous topic, I have discussed everything about the neurotransmitters, the acetylcholine, their synthesis, their activation, inactivation, reuptake. For that, you have to understand the ANS. Okay. And I have also given you the tricks to remember the way the receptors are working. For example, if you stimulate the M1 receptors, you are going to excite, isn't it? M1 receptor is an excitatory receptor. M2 receptor is an inhibitory receptor. Do we know? I have taught you in the previous topics. Okay. So that decreases CAMP. Or dopamine. Dopamine goes to the D1 receptors. If it goes to the D1 receptors, it is a stimulatory type of receptor. If dopamine goes to D2 receptors, it is an inhibitory type of activity. If it goes to the postsynaptic area, increases that potassium conductance. Then we said about, I'm just revising here because we have discussed this in the previous ANS system. Norepinephrine, we said, yeah, it goes to the alpha-1 receptors, causes an excitatory activity. Alpha 2 receptors is inhibitory activity. Uh, then again there came the presynaptic and postsynaptic concept. Presynaptically, it decreased the calcium conductance. Postsynaptically, it increased the potassium conductance. Then we discussed about serotonin in the fresh topic of autocoids, that serotonin, if it goes to the 5-HT1A receptors, it causes inhibitory activity. If it goes to 5-HT2 receptors, it causes excitatory activity. If it goes to 5-HT3 receptors, causes excitatory activity. If it goes to 5-HT4 receptors, causes excitatory activity. Is it clear? Is this clear, my friends? Is this clear, my friends? And do we remember that we were making norepinephrine from tyrosine? Let us give you a review here. From the tyrosine, I was making what I was making. I was making dopa. From dopa, I was making dopamine. From dopamine, I was making norepinephrine. What was the enzyme from tyrosine to dopa? Tyrosine hydroxylase. Dopa to dopamine, dopa decarboxylase. What was the enzyme from dopamine to norepinephrine? Dopamine beta hydroxylase. Dopamine beta hydroxylase. This was the enzyme. And you were having this norepinephrine, which was then fusing with the syntaxin and synaptobrevin with the membrane, presynaptic membrane, and then was released on the postsynaptic receptors, which was having alpha receptors and beta receptors. Are we able to understand? Yes. And then you also had, I hope, from the serotonin story, you know that I have a tryptophan, tryptophan amino acid. This tryptophan, if acted upon by hydroxylase, that is tryptophan hydroxylase, will get converted into, if it's doing the hydroxylation reaction from the biochemistry, then it should convert this tryptophan into 5-hydroxytryptamine, that is 5-HT. And this 5-HT is released on the postsynaptic area where the receptors can be of various types. It can be a 5-HT1C, 5-HT2A, 5-HT1B, 1D, 5-HT. So I will make for you. So it can be, here it can be what? 5-HT3. It can be 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, isn't it? Isn't it? We have studied everything. It can be 1B, 1D, 1B, 1D. It can be 1A. And then we said if this 5-hydroxytryptamine comes here, what you were doing? Sumatriptan was working here, sumatriptan, isn't it? And sumatriptan was also acting on the presynaptic area, because you also have presynaptic what? 1B, 1D, 1B, 1D, you have presynaptic. You know, this I have made presynaptic, this postsynaptic. There is no need to make beautiful diagrams and wasting time. We have already made it in detailed discussion in ANS also. This is the third time we are repeating this discussion. So you have to, because the video will become so much big. If it is already discussed, why to repeat it again, record another video like the other people are doing? Not useful. Not your time is precious. Okay. So there is only one video I have made. Just watch that video. That's enough. So 1B, 1D, 1B, 1D, sumatriptan. Okay. And then we said, by the way, I want to tell you, see, you know your antiemetics, they were working on where? They were working here, antiemetics. Your antiemetics were working here. Antiemetics. Antiemetics work here. Okay. And I will be making a diagram for you after some time. Okay. Don't worry. Just listen to what I'm going to say. Your 1C2A, your 1C2A is being acted upon by LSD and atypical antipsychotics, which will be learned. Atypical antipsychotics. So I have to make the diagram for you about this serotonin. Okay. Okay, guys. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? Now listen. Now listen. We are going to start with sedatives and hypnotics. We are going to start with the drugs, sedatives and hypnotics. We gave you a review of everything so that you get well versed with it. So sedatives and hypnotics. Let us change the color. So we start with the sedatives and hypnotics. Sedatives and hypnotics. Guys, sedatives and hypnotics, basically, if I go into the a simple discussion about this, guys, sedatives and hypnotics. A sedative is something, there's a difference between the two. Sedative is a drug which has a simple, just remember one word, calming effect on a person. Calm. Sedatives make you calm. Hypnotics are those drugs which bring you sleep. These make you sleep. Okay. While you are giving a drug to a patient, any CNS drug or any CNS depressant, sorry, a CNS depressant drug will induce, can induce, if you increase a dose of there is a dose dependent effect of CNS depressant drugs. There is a dose dependent effect. What is dose dependent effect? Means on the basis of dosage, if it is a lesser dose, it will give some effect. If it is more dose, it will give some other effect. Like you read in the aspirin that 40 mg you were giving, behaving at something. Less than 2000 mg you gave something, behaving as something. In the range of 4500 mg it was behaving as something else, isn't it? We remember that. Same way I'm talking about, when you are giving any CNS depressant drug, that will be having a dose dependent effect. That is, a CNS depressant drug, CNS depressants can work as, it can work as a sedative. I hope you know now what is sedative. It can work as hypnotic, and it can work as anesthesia, or it can work as coma. Are we able to understand? So this is the concept. Clear? Clear? I want to tell you a complex, a channel complex. If I make a cell membrane, if I make a big cell membrane, this cell membrane, I am talking about a complex called GABA benzodiazepine chloride complex. I'm going to talk about a complex. I'm making a diagram of a receptor called GABA benzodiazepine chloride complex receptor channel. Sorry. Okay, it's a channel. So this GABA benzodiazepine is written in short as BZD. Chloride channel complex is made up of some proteins. Okay. First concept to remember about this channel is that it is an ion channel. It is an ion channel. If you open, let us make a simple concept. If you open this ion channel, it will lead to inward, it will increase the chloride conductance. It will increase the chloride conductance. That means more chloride will come inside. That means more chloride will come inside. Don't you think? More chloride comes inside through this channel. Will you cause something more negative? Will you cause something to become more negative? Yes, you will make something inside more negative. Will you, who is the negative guy in the world? Depression. Who is the negative guy in this world? Depression. So remember depression from this. Depression means more negative inside. Depression means more negative inside. Chloride ions coming inside. Negativity. Depression. Negativity. Depression. So will it cause chloride conductance to increase? Yes. Will it cause finally a CNS depression? Yes. CNS depression? Yes. Okay. Clear? If I give GABA to this channel, because it's a complex, it has a GABA site, it has a benzodiazepine site, it has a barbiturate site. So let me show you. It is having this channel. Let me make a channel for you. this channel is having some sides. Let me make this beautiful channel like a flower. Okay, let me make it as a component like this. So if I make like this, if I make it like this, I will make it by 3 colors. Okay, so guys, this channel is in the cell membrane. This channel is in the cell membrane, and let us make it like this. So this channel in the cell membrane, and it is having a GABA site. It is having a GABA site. Let us make a GABA site like this. It is having a GABA site. It is having a GABA site. It is having a benzodiazepine site. It is having a benzodiazepine site. It is having a benzodiazepine site. Benzodiazepine, the spelling is BENZODIAZEPINE. Benzodiazepine is in short written as BZD. Okay, and it has a barbiturate site. It has a barbiturate site. It has a barbiturate site. It has a barbiturate site, and this is your cell membrane. So cell is made up of phospholipids. So let me draw the phospholipids. Head and tail. Kinking is there. Kinking, isn't it? Kinking. Phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine. Okay, are we able to understand? This is a cell membrane. You don't need to draw that much. Okay, I hope you understand what I am drawing. So this is extracellular. This is intracellular. Clear? Now listen guys, it causes CNS depression. What is the function of GABA here? Just remember like this, GABA is behaving as a, it increases the, listen to the word, it increases the duration of the channel opening. Duration of channel. Duration, the important is duration. It increases the duration of the channel. Time for which the channel will remain open. Open. Which receptor does GABA bind? GABA binds to GABA A site. GABA will bind to GABA A site. GABA will bind to GABA A site. Clear? These are all receptors. I'm going very slowly so that we get a basic concept of everything. Okay. Now listen to my concept. Just listen to my concept. If I give someone barbiturate, is barbiturate having its separate site on the BZD complex channel, this GABA full channel? Is it having its different site? What is the effect if I am giving a barbiturate? Is a drug. I am giving a barbiturate. What is going to have that? What effect do you have? It will show a GABA mimetic effect. That is, it is behaving as a GABA. It is behaving as a GABA. It's not doing anything with the GABA site, but it's going to some other site. That is the benzodiazepine site. Okay. And that is the barbiturate site. And at that site, it is showing a GABA mimetic effect. Not only this, it also gives us a GABA facilitatory effect. GABA mimetic effect, GABA facilitatory effect, GABA facilitatory effect. What do we mean by GABA mimetic effect? GABA mimetic effect means when you are activating the GABA receptor. See, you are binding to some other site, but who is getting activated? Can you see in the diagram? GABA is getting activated. The site of GABA is getting activated, but the site is not the GABA. The site is the barbiturate. So if you think like it is a switch here, If you turn on the switch, it has connections with this also. Just remember like this. It has connections with it. Just remember like that. So it opens that. It activates, behaves, makes the cell behave like that. What is GABA facilitatory effect? GABA facilitatory effect means when someone facilitates you, when someone tells you to please prepare for your NEET PG exam, he facilitates you, he gives you some timetable, he gives you some time management tips. That means he is facilitating you to qualify the test. Same way, GABA facilitatory effect is telling the GABA, so please go and bind to the GABA A receptors. Please go and bind to the GABA A receptors. What if they bind? What if they bind to GABA A receptors? What do you think? What will be the action? Dash. Action will be dash. Action will be GABA mimetic. Again, that GABA mimetic effect. Yeah, isn't it? It will give that GABA mimetic because you are fusing more things. So yeah, definitely you are going to have that action. Sir, you made a site called benzodiazepine site. Benzodiazepine site is again a different site. It is having its own receptor called the BZT receptor. Benzodiazepine site is such a beautiful drug that if you give this, it will bind to a different site. What is the site? BZD receptor. What is the action? It has a GABA facilitatory action. GABA facilitatory action. So who do you think is the hero? Who do you think is the hero? Who do you think is the hero? Barbiturates. Barbiturate is having, but in the further discussion, you will understand why barbiturate is not a hero. He's a villain actually. Not a villain actually, but yeah, we go for benzodiazepines more, safer than the barbiturates. So benzodiazepines has a GABA facilitatory effect, but barbiturates are having both GABA mimetic effect as well as GABA facilitatory effect. So will they actually increase the chloride channel frequency? Yes, they will increase the chloride frequency. Who was talking about the duration? Who was doing something with the duration? It was GABA. Who was causing frequency? Who keeps frequently opening the channel? Benzodiazepine. Benzodiazepine frequently opens the chloride channels. But GABA increases the duration of the chloride channels. Guys, we have a drug called Bicuculline. Bicuculline. Bicuculline is that drug. It's a competitive inhibitor of GABA. It's a competitive inhibitor of GABA. It's a competitive inhibitor of GABA. Fine. Which GABA, sir? GABA A receptor. Competitive inhibitor of GABA at GABA A receptor. Okay. Competitive inhibitor of GABA at GABA A receptor, but non-competitive inhibitor. Non-competitive inhibitor of benzodiazepine. Are we able to understand? Non-competitive benzodiazepine, competitive GABA A. Okay. There is also one inverse agonist which I remember, that is called beta carboline. Beta carboline. Beta carboline is a inverse agonist. Inverse agonist. This beta carboline inverse agonist comes to the benzodiazepine site at the BZT site. At the BZT site, and this can cause convulsions. Convulsions because of intense stimulation of brain. It can cause convulsions. Okay, sir, the patient has taken beta carboline, he went into poisoning. What to do? We have a choice. The beautiful, the one and only, let's call upon the stage, flumazenil. 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 Nil means no. Flumazenil. Means nil, means destroy the effect of beta cabergoline as well as benzodiazepine. So it inhibits the action of beta cabergoline, it inhibits the action of benzodiazepine. That's why we give it in benzodiazepine poisoning. Do we remember that? So it is the antidote. Antidote. Flumazenil. Flumazenil. Can we understand the language? Can we understand our language? Flumazenil. Nil. Mazenil. Flumazenil. Okay, I hope you are understanding. Yes, because beta cabergoline was giving you maze. So it made it nil. Benzodiazepine was giving you maze. So you are going to make it nil. Mazenil. Okay. This is how I remember. Now, guys, focus. Give 100% focus attention for your CNS, the beautiful topic. I talk about, by the way, let's go for a pictorial representation. So, which drugs will be acting, behaving as an agonist at the benzodiazepine site? Which drugs will be acting as benzodiazepine? So that list I will be making: zolpidem, diazepam, what else? Everything I will be telling you. Inverse agonist, if I tell you, which inverse agonist acts on benzodiazepine site? Guys, which inverse agonist acts on benzodiazepine site? Beta carboline, not beta carboline, exactly. Now, which is the blocker of the site? Benzodiazepine site antagonist. That is flumazenil. Flumazenil. Okay. I give an agonist at the GABA site. What is the agonist? Bicuculline, Muskimol, isn't it? Muskimol is also there. I forgot to tell you, Muskimol is also there. Muskimol. Okay, guys, is it clear? Now, if I talk about the, in between the membrane, what is the agonist of barbiturate site? The agonist of barbiturate site is phenobarbital. Phenobarbital. Phenobarbital is the agonist of barbiturates. It's the agonist of barbiturates. Now, guys, let us start with the discussion of barbiturates. Let us start with the discussion of barbiturates. Barbiturates. Guys, barbiturates are those compounds, those drugs which have been derived from barbituric acid. Barbituric acid. What is the effect of barbiturates? What they will do? They will open the chloride conductance in the GABA BZD chloride channel complex and will give us a GABA mimetic as well as GABA facilitate reaction. GABA mimetic as well as GABA facilitate reaction. Isn't it? So GABA mimetic, I told you in the beginning, revising it again for you, GABA mimetic plus GABA facilitate reaction. GABA facilitate reaction. And what is the effect of total effect of all these is that you're finally getting a chloride channel opening. You are having a chloride channel opening. Sir, is it increasing the frequency? Remember with red color? No. No, nothing to do with frequency. Only duration. Only duration. Benzodiazepine, remember duration. Barbiturate, remember duration. Barbiturate, duration. Barbiturate, duration. So where will I be giving this barbiturate? Guys, barbiturate is basically in the neurology department. We, in the case of epilepsy, given for epilepsy. Okay, so which barbiturate do we give? Phenobarbital. Phenobarbital. You can use it in the anesthesia department as anesthesia. You have to use it with thiopentone. Thiopentone is an inducing agent that you will learn in drugs of anesthesia. Maybe I will teach that in the anesthesia only, not in the hair. So, and thiopentone inducing agent. Thiopentone inducing agent. So you are using this as combination so that you can get the effect of the anesthesia. But I want to here give you a an information. The information is that this barbiturate is not used. Why? First thing, from the basics of general principles of pharmacology I taught you, they have a narrow therapeutic index. Narrow therapeutic index means if even I increase the dose with a little bit, it will have a wide toxicity, wide effect. So that range of deviating from the dosage can give us a toxicity. So if I give a small dose, I will get a CNS depression. And even I can land the patient into coma. So that's why they have a narrow therapeutic index. And there is a curve called DRC, dose response curve. They also have a steep DRC, dose response curve. I have taught this everything in the general pharmacology principles. Plus, they are inducers of enzymes, cytochrome enzyme. So they induce the cytochromes. Okay, clear? And one thing is that they have a concept in psychiatry called high abuse liability. They are having high abuse liability, and that's why once they can give us those withdrawal symptoms. I will be teaching you that, don't worry. Sir, what to do if someone gets a barbiturate poisoning? No antidote. There is no antidote, no specific, I should write, no specific antidote. Are we clear, guys? Guys, the contraindications and the adverse effects can be written in short form as they can. If I talk about the adverse effects of benzodiazepines, adverse effects or contraindications, since they are very long in duration, I told you they are increasing the duration. So what they will be doing is they will be decreasing the REM, rapid eye movement sleep. I hope you have read the REM sleep in physiology. They decrease the REM, that is rapid eye movement of the sleep. Okay, so there is a REM sleep, non-REM sleep, stage 1 sleep, 2, 3. Okay, so decrease the REM sleep, and also means duration. I should write duration. So duration of REM is decreased, plus stage 3 and stage 4 of the sleep. So they decrease the REM, decrease the stage 3 of sleep, decrease the stage 4 of sleep, but increase the stage 2 of sleep. Okay. Next concept is that when they are given, they can cause learning impairment. They can cause memory impairment. They can cause memory impairment. Okay. And in some patients, it causes idiosyncratic reaction, which can lead to excitement. And when is this motor function getting compromised? When are you getting the depression? I want to give it as this way. I want to tell it this way. I want to connect this with neurology. Basically, if you give low doses of barbiturates, just listen. If you give low doses of barbiturates, you will be having a depression in sensory function only. There will be a sensory function depression. Okay. Low doses, depression of sensory function. And if you give it without anesthesia, analgesia, it will give sedation. Okay. And can cause, next thing is that they can cause drowsiness. They can cause drowsiness. I'm telling you the effects side by side. Okay. So effects side by side. So this is contraindication. This is adverse effect. Okay. So this effect is sensory function loss will happen with low doses. So just writing some factual points from this side. Sir, what about the high doses? If you give it in high doses, you will have a loss in motor function. Your motor function will get lost. If you give it in high doses, motor function will get depressed. And even your medullary center will get depressed. Your medulla, which is a center for circulation, which is a center for respiratory activities. Okay. Okay, guys. So you can have, first I'm writing the effects. Write the effects from this side. Write the effects from this side. Okay. So decreased doses. In less doses, low doses, you will have a decreased depression in the sensory function. You will have a hyperalgesic action can be there also, or drowsiness is there. But if you give it in high doses, if you get in high doses, you will have a depression in the motor function. You will have a depression in the medullary centers of the brain, which includes a circulatory depression, which includes a respiratory depression. So you will have a circulatory depression. You will have a respiratory depression because of the medullary centers getting depressed. And there has been seen a marked sedation. There is a marked sedation has been seen, the effect. And rest you already know that it induces the cytochrome P450 enzymes. That means it is prone to drug interaction. It is prone to drugs. But if I talk about the contraindications will be, it will be increasing. It has a hangover. Hangover is common. Hangover is common with this. Hangover, isn't it? There was a song on hangover, isn't it? I can't sing the song right now. So you have a hangover is common. Second thing is that they are decreasing your duration of REM sleep, decreasing the duration of stage 3 sleep, decreasing the duration of stage 4 sleep, but they are increasing the duration of stage 2 sleep. They are increasing the duration of stage 2 sleep. Okay, many people making me laugh, but I can't laugh because I am teaching, isn't it? Otherwise, I am getting a big laugh in my. So we have a learning impairment, we have a memory impairment, isn't it? We have an idiosyncratic reaction happening where people are focusing. Please focus. Some people are focusing. Idiosyncratic reaction is resulting in the excitement. Okay. And remember one thing, there is an absolute contraindication for the use of what? Barbiturates. There is an absolute contraindication. The absolute contraindication is the one and only acute intermittent porphyria. Acute intermittent porphyria. Acute intermittent porphyria. In case of acute intermittent porphyria, we are having more amount of porphyrin synthesis, and you know it is because of delta ALA synthase, who is actually increasing the porphyrins in the blood. It is ALA synthase. Delta ALA synthase. Now guys, what is the problem in acute intermittent porphyria is delta ALA synthase. Delta ALA synthase is increasing the porphyrin synthesis. And it has been seen when you give barbiturates, barbiturate is an inducer of this ALA synthase. If it is an inducer of ALA synthase, it will increase the porphyrins. But you already have a disease called acute intermittent porphyria. So you will be exacerbating the situation. You are actually putting the fuel in the fire. You are giving the fuel to the fire. So it's an absolute contraindication. Never give barbiturates in case of acute intermittent porphyria because it is an enzyme inducer. Of which enzyme? Delta ALA synthase, which increases porphyrin. But in acute intermittent porphyria, you are already having more porphyrin, so you can't give. Because you know delta ALA synthase from the biochemistry, it is a rate limiting step of, it's a rate limiting step, rate limiting enzyme. It's a rate limiting enzyme in porphyrin. I will teach you in biochemistry. And if you give this in high doses, then the patient will definitely come to you with ataxia, retrograde amnesia. He forgets everything of the past. Retrograde amnesia. Person can come with retrograde amnesia. Retrograde amnesia, guys. Okay. He can go into coma. He can go into hypotension. All those effects. And he can also present to us with barbiturate blisters. Barbiturate blisters. Barbiturate blisters. How to treat the poisoning if we don't have an antidote? So antidote if not there, then you can go for gastric lavage if presenting to us in those hours where absorption has not happened, which I have taught you. Gastric lavage plus symptomatic treatment plus forced alkaline diuresis. Forced alkaline diuresis. If nothing, you don't have anything, you can go for hemodialysis. Hemodialysis. Is it clear? Guys, is it clear? Okay. So in the next discussion, we will be discussing more about these central nervous system drugs. So I hope you have enjoyed this topic. So see you all in the next topic. Take care and bye-bye.